Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toad Stool Sports. It is Monday, January 19th. It is MLK Day, so there's going to be a lot of afternoon action. Basketball, they make a big deal out of it. There's afternoon NBA, afternoon college basketball. I don't have a voice, so I apologize. Mostly from yelling yesterday, as we lost right out of the gate with Army. They could not come through. We went 1-1 in the basketball plays. New Orleans Pelicans got there with the cover. Kind of close. They were hanging right within that number basically all game. They wound up losing by, I believe, 10. So they did get there. Oh, yeah, I was going to wear my Zion jersey. I forgot, whatever. I'm just too pissed. I'm too pissed about it, man. The Kings did not get there. The money actually disagreed with me on that one pretty strongly. I don't know what to tell you. I thought it was the right spot to play the Kings. They went off 1.5, so you might have gotten a better number on it. Didn't matter. They didn't win the game. They made it closer towards the end and still didn't get there. And then, obviously, I'm really pissed about the Rams. The Rams, you can never find a 3 out there. I should have mentioned that you should probably just wait. Because the public was probably going to start coming in on the Bears to some extent, so the number was going to drop a little bit probably. But it was like 3.5 abundantly. It never hit 3, so it wound up being a loser and in somewhat the worst possible way because the Rams had the bigger lead in the game. They started right out with a 7-0 lead, so I'm like, all right, it's looking pretty good for the Rams. They could never get margin. They actually fell behind once in the game. The game was 10-10 in the second half, and the Rams got a crucial touchdown with not much time left in the game. With maybe 3 or 4 minutes left, the Rams went back up 17-10 in a low-scoring game like that. You're thinking that might do it. That might be enough. Then the Bears have a 4th down play from, I don't know where they were, like the Rams 20-something with under 2 minutes to go. And the Bears, I don't know if you saw this play. I quote tweeted it out, but Caleb Williams ran backwards like 20 yards probably and then just chucked it like a complete prayer. Like people are like saying this is a good play. It was not a good play. And the Rams defender in the end zone ran like 5 yards back towards the line of scrimmage. I don't know what that guy was doing, leaving, I think, Loveland wide open in the end zone, who caught it for a touchdown. It made no sense, dude. It was one of the worst touchdowns I've ever seen. It was not a skillful touchdown, okay? Like, with the game on the line of 4th down, you run backwards 20 yards. That's just stupidity. And then he just got ass lucky that the Rams defender ran away from the guy he was supposed to be defending. It made no sense. Absolutely no sense at all. I can't believe they scored a touchdown on that, and that's what did it. Because they don't score, like they don't convert the fourth down play there. The game's pretty much over, and you're gonna get the win and the cover there. And then it goes into overtime, of course, and then hilariously, Caleb Williams throws an interception. Well, the Rams actually got the ball first in overtime, so that was actually good. So you're thinking you might actually still be able to get away with a Ram cover here because they have to get a touchdown. Well, they don't have to, but if they get a touchdown, I believe if they get a touchdown, then I guess the Bears still have a chance to match it, but the Rams are incentivized to get a touchdown on the first drive. They didn't. They punted. So then I think it's just next score wins, and then Caleb Williams throws an interception from like midfield. They probably needed like 15 more yards, and they're going to be kicking a field goal, even though it was in snow and whatever. Williams throwing another crucial interception. The guy is not good, dude. I'm telling you. And then at that point, you pretty much know the Rams are going to win. They're probably going to drive on the Bears' defense, but they're probably going to do it with a field goal. And then they did almost get a touchdown on a couple of the plays on that drive because I'm thinking, well, maybe they will actually like try to get a touchdown here because the field goal is not automatic in snow and whatever like this, especially with a rookie kicker, the thicker kicker, Mevis, but they got him enough. They got him to a range that was like a pretty makeable field goal. I think it was about 40, and he kicked that for the game winner. So Rams money line hit, but that's about it. I'm not happy about it. I think the other game was pretty bullshit. The way the Patriots won, the Texans had not lost by more than 8 points all season, and it was all because C.J. Stroud is he's an absolute disaster, dude. Between those two games, I think Stroud himself had like 10 turnovers in 2 games in the playoffs. It's unbelievable. It's got to be some sort of record. He throws a pick 6 in the game right after they take the lead, and it looks like Houston's about to maybe seize control of the game. No, I mean, Houston's defense did well in the game, and there's nothing they could do about it when Stroud is turning the ball over on every single possession. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, and that was the name of that game. It wasn't really anything that the Patriots did. It was really which team threw the game away more, and that was Houston. It's crazy, man. And we're going to see what happens coming into the championship games. Are just ridiculous, man. It's like the Rams are really the only team with a legit quarterback left, really. Well, I mean, May, I guess, is a legit quarterback, but he's a rookie, you know what I mean? Or a second-year quarterback who hasn't been in the playoffs before, I should say. So, like there's only one, like, legit and experienced quarterback left, pretty much, and that is Stafford. So, if the Rams don't win the Super Bowl at this point, I'll be pretty surprised, to be honest. But we'll see what happens when we get there. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Tyson, what's up? I kind of do. The Hail Mary, like, it looked like it was a rigged play. Like, why would the defender just run away from the guy he's supposed to be defending when you pretty much know the ball is coming in your direction? Like, you could see where Williams is chucking the ball. Like, it made no sense. Like, I'm pretty sure he started running in that direction after the ball was in the air. It made absolutely zero sense. Definitely could be rigged because I think it helped out the books quite a bit having the Bears cover the spread and having the Rams hit on the money line. I think that actually really helped the books because probably more of the public money was playing the Bears on the money line because the public likes that plus money, man, on these small dogs. That's what they like in these big games. Who are assholes? What are we talking about? I don't know. Like the rigged aspect of it is, yeah, it's just bad. All right, let me get into it. I'm going to have a bunch of plays today. I'm going to have 2 college basketball, 2 hockey, 2 NBA. You might not be able to guess what my NBA plays are, and the market is disagreeing with both of them, and I'm just like, I don't care. Dude, this is my handicapping that I've done for a while. This is my situational handicapping. This is where it leads me. And I am going to have a play on the college football championship game tonight. Please help me. Yeah, it's going to be one that nobody wants. You already know what it's going to be. All right, college basketball starts out 11 a.m. There's college basketball on CBS Sports, and it is not a good one. I'm sorry. In the Colonial, I'm always going to call it the Colonial Conference. Northeastern and Monmouth. I mean, they get an isolated 11 a.m. start time on one of the big networks. I mean, good for them, I guess. Good for these teams. Good for my Boston guys from Northeastern. I don't even know what to think about this game. Northeastern did just break a losing streak. They beat Elon. Decent win. Elon's been decent in the conference, so possible maybe letdown spot here for Northeastern going on the road to face Monmouth. I think Monmouth is definitely going to be the favorite in this game. They're actually probably they're the better of the two teams. Not actually. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they are. Monmouth is staying at home. Just took a fairly ugly loss at home to Drexel. Although Drexel is, of course, ahead of them in the standings, whatever. Slight lean to Monmouth for me in this game. I don't really have much to lean on in that one. The market is agreeing with that for what it's worth. 59% of the tickets are on Northeastern. 64% of the cash on Monmouth. The public doesn't really like to lay points with bad teams, and both of these teams are bad, but they don't like laying points with below 500 teams and whatever, But those are my thoughts on that game. ESPNU has an American East matchup as we have, what do we have today? We have Colonial, American East, Ivy, a lot of MAAC action going on today. MAAC action. Northeastern Conference, there's a little bit of A10 going on. I've kind of scrolled through. I mean, I handicapped all the games in my head. There's SWAC. There's one Big East game for some reason. There's some MEAC. There's Southland. There are a lot of conferences in play today, man. And Big Sky later as well. I think that's all of them. But, yeah. All right. But, yes, ESPNU at 1 p.m. I'm going to cover the TV games at least because people like to bet on what they're watching. But, again, I recommend only putting a little bit of money on these games just for fun if that's what you're doing. Vermont at Albany. I mean, they're pretty much always one of the best teams in this conference, and they are again right now. Last year was the first time in recent memory that I really can remember them not winning the conference. They're coming off a not-so-good win over Maine. Didn't win by that much. Maine was decent in the conference last year, but not this year. I'm assuming Vermont was a big favorite here. So Vermont probably should have won this more easily. Yeah, they were 14.5-point favorites, and they almost lost the game. Maine was winning the game in the second half, so bad game for Vermont. So they might bounce back here, but they do have UMass Lowell on deck, and as bad as they are, they're one of the teams that's right behind Vermont in the standings. So there is still the chance that maybe Vermont overlooks Albany, although Vermont might show up, again, coming off that really bad performance. Albany, likely expect them to show up as well because it is Vermont. Usually you're going to step up for a game against the team that pretty much dominates your conference every year. So Albany beat Binghamton in their last game, which is kind of a local rivalry type of thing. But Albany's the better of those two teams. Binghamton sucks. So I don't think Albany coming off that win is really going to be – they're not going to be overconfident or anything like that. The money looks like it is kind of indicating on Vermont, although they did drop from 5.5 to 4.5. 60% of the tickets and 87% of the cash on Vermont. It's a lowish total at 141, so I don't know, laying the points a little bit more dicey with a low total like that, although maybe I should stop thinking that way in basketball because Houston could have been a winner for me if I just added them to my card yesterday. They had an easy blowout win yesterday, and I did lean that way. That was my second strongest college basketball opinion yesterday. This one I would probably lean to Vermont because it's the better, when you get the better team in what should be a focus spot, that's kind of the way that you want to lean, I would say, more often than not. And that is what you're getting there. So that's what I think about that. Drexel is at Towson, more Colonial action at 1 p.m. on CBS Sports. Drexel, not exactly a great team. They are coming off winning at Monmouth in what I presume was an upset. They were 5.5-point dogs in that game, so they are coming off an upset. Going to Towson. Towson's been kind of under the radar, man. They're not as bad as they look, but they did just get a big win at home against College of Charleston, or I guess just Charleston now. Big win for Towson, so it almost looks kind of like a sandwich for Towson, actually. They get Drexel here, who's not really that good, and then on deck they have Elon, who's close to the top of the conference, so you could definitely make the argument Towson is in a sandwich here. Drexel is pulling off an upset, though, and Towson still doesn't really have the record of a team that is going to be a team that you really focus on, but they're better than their record looks, like I said. Towson's a 6-point favorite here. For what it's worth, Drexel has 60% of the tickets and 74% of the cash coming in on them. I mean, it kind of comes down to whether you think Drexel is going to like really have a lot of focus on Towson, or like, do they realize Towson is this good? I don't know. Or this good for this conference, I guess. Like, Towson's definitely the most underperforming team in this conference, I should say, at the very least. So the money is coming in on Drexel. That's a tough read for me, though. Like, I don't think either team is in a particularly good spot. Total's gone up a little bit to a very low, 125.5. Usually low totals are going to go under, but in that game, I probably would not want to be in an under in that one, to be honest. I could see both teams not being in the greatest of spots, and sometimes that does affect the defense more than anything else. Next game up, I'll give you an afternoon play here. One of my 2 plays is in the afternoon, and it is in the MAAC. We're going to go with, I know it's a team whose record doesn't look bad, and they're an underdog, so it's a little bit more palatable of an underdog. And I usually like dogs that are disgusting and not palatable because I like to fade the public. But we're going to be on Iona plus 3.5 here. I mean, we're still looking at an Iona team. It's kind of middle of the pack in this conference, even though I still think they're one of the more competitive teams in this conference. They've faced a fairly difficult conference schedule so far. Well, at least they faced Siena and Marist already, so I guess it wasn't the most difficult. And Mount St. Mary's on the road is, they're not a pushover at the very least. But look at what Iona's coming off of, man. They just had their worst game of the season. They lost at Ryder. Ryder is terrible. Ryder's like the doormat of this conference. I think they really stepped up their game for Iona. If you dig into the box score here, the one thing that really jumps out is that Ryder had 28 free throw attempts and Iona only had 12, and they missed more than half of them. So the free throw disparity was really, really huge in this game. Iona was behind. I guess it just started chucking up a bunch of threes, although it's kind of what they do anyway. But the fact that they made a bunch more threes, couldn't get them over the hump there. They did get out-rebounded horribly, though, that's the one thing that's really alarming about this, but I'm still going to go with Iona here, man. I mean, the free throw disparity loomed large. I think you're going to get Iona bouncing back here off a really, really disgusting loss. Even though it is a second straight road game, they're staying in the state of New Jersey for this. They're going to have focus on St. Peter's, who's now suddenly at the top of the conference. And St. Peter's just beat that same Ryder team. I thought St. Peter's was going to be in a major sandwich there after they played. They beat Merrimack and Quinnipiac. And yes, St. Peter's has faced a difficult schedule so far, although I don't think Merrimack is as good as they look record-wise. Quinnipiac's pretty legit for this conference, though, and so is Marist. So St. Peter's has beaten those teams. I thought they were going to be in a sandwich spot against Ryder, but they still beat Ryder by double digits. Ryder, they're bad, man. And St. Peter's had Iona and Merrimack on deck, but now I think this is a spot where you're going to get a really focused Iona team getting points here. And St. Peter's, there is the possibility they start looking ahead, man, to Merrimack again, because even though they beat them once, Merrimack is the one team in the conference that's tied with them right now, man. So big game on deck. We have a common opponent these teams just faced, so it's going to look pretty easy to lay a small favorite price with St. Peter's here. Oh, they just beat Ryder by 11, and Ryder just beat Iona. So, of course, St. Peter's is going to beat Iona, right? I don't think that's the way it works, man. I think you're going to get a focused effort out of Iona here. Iona's not a bad team. You're actually going to get 4 points on this now. But the money looks like it is on Iona based on the percentages. 60% of the tickets. And again, the ticket percentage, not necessarily indicative of like a public side when you look at these small conference college basketball games. 71% of the cash on Iona. And it's now 4-point spread. Totals at 141.5. So the total is dropping. Now, St. Peter's is the team that likes to play slow. Iona plays fast. But if it's a slow-paced game and you're asking a team to cover like that as well, like I think it's preferable to be on an underdog with a low total like this in a game where even if it's the favorite is a slow-down team, if you think it's going to be a slower type of game, points a little bit more at a premium, something like that. Although, again, that type of strategy does work better in football where fewer points are scored, but it is something to consider in basketball, and I always talk about it. But I like Iona due to the spot here. Ken Baum has this being like, I think, a 1 or 2 point line here. So the fact that it's 4 is a little bit crazy. He's got Iona He does have them really lucky in the luck index, but he actually has both teams really lucky here. He's got St. Peter's. Where does he have St. Peter's at? I believe he actually has Iona as the... Does he have Iona as the better team? He does. He has Iona at 215 and St. Peter's 245. So Ken Baum has Iona as the better team, and they're getting more than just home court advantage baked into the line here. So there's definitely line value here. He has both teams being very lucky, so that kind of balances itself out. And both teams are actually more defensive-oriented as well, though Iona's a little bit worse defensively, I guess, but it's pretty close. And Iona is the better offense, although they play fast. St. Peter's is a very weak offense, so the biggest disparity between the two teams is actually Iona having the better offense, and the defenses are not that far apart, even though, yeah, St. Peter's is a little bit better on the defensive end, but I think it's a much closer game than that, so we're going to be on Iona plus the points there. And again, I think you can get 4 on that. Sacred Heart is at Rider, and this is an interesting game, even though both teams suck, just because both teams are coming off of upsets. Sacred Heart won at Siena, and Rider, like I just pointed out, won against Iona. So I think that kind of balances itself out. It makes it difficult to want to be on either side here because both teams could potentially be in letdown spots. Sacred Heart, I mean, both of these teams are really, really bad. So I don't even know which way I would want to go here. Sacred Heart broke a long loss streak. So sometimes when you do that, that will give you a little bit of momentum moving forward. Rider is the worst team in the conference standing-wise. And their first conference win was that Iona one. Oh, but actually, my mistake. Rider actually had another game after that. My mistake. Rider lost to St. Peter's after they played Iona. So my apologies there. So actually, I would probably lean to Rider in this game. Yeah, I think that's what I was thinking. I was like, why did I want to talk about this game again? Yeah, Rider already had their letdown spot against St. Peter's, although St. Peter's is at the top of the conference, like I said. But Rider's a little brother in the state of New Jersey to them too, but Rider couldn't get it done. They're back at home. I would prefer Rider in this spot. I mean, Sacred Heart is almost as bad as Rider, and yet they're laying 3.5 on the road. I think that number is maybe a little high. I don't think a team like Sacred Heart, like, they're so bad. I don't know that they should really be laying points on the road against many teams. Although Rider is really, really awful for sure. 57% of the tickets on Sacred Heart, 61% of the cash on Rider. I agree with the cash percentage in that one. I would take the points with Rider. Both bad offenses, too. It's a low total of 141. So there's some information on that one for you. Ken Baum does have Rider in like the bottom 15 in all of college basketball, although he has them also being pretty unlucky. And he doesn't have Sacred Heart that much better, really. Sacred Heart's in the bottom 80 or so, and he has them very bad defensively. And also unlucky as well, which is interesting. All right. If you want me to talk about some of these other games, I will, but I'm mostly focused on the TV games and the ones that I thought had certain interest, maybe just better games in conferences or ones that have situations that make sense to talk about. Merrimack at Marist is actually one of the better games in the MAAC, and Merrimack, as we saw, is 7-1 in conference, and Marist is 6-2. Marist does have the better overall record, and you'll see in a minute, Marist is laying a lot of points in this game, man, and it might be justified. Merrimack just beat Quinnipiac. That was a big win for them. Now they're going back out on the road, playing a third road game in 4 games. I mean, they're not going to overlook Marist, but having to play 2 huge games in a row like this might be a little bit difficult. I think Marist comes in off an easier game. Yeah, they beat Fairfield at home. They're just staying at home. So Marist comes into this game in the, I think, more advantageous spot, just kind of rolling on a 4-game win streak here. Marist is legit, even though they did lose to Quinnipiac. So people might see this and say, oh, Marist lost to Quinnipiac and Merrimack beat Quinnipiac, and you're giving me a bunch of points with Merrimack. It looks really easy to play Merrimack here, man. But that is not what I would do in this game. I would actually lay it with Marist. Marist is up to a 7-point favorite here, and you got to wonder why that's the case when they're below Merrimack in the conference and whatever. Well, the odds makers are telling you, as I already pointed out, I think Merrimack is overrated right now. And Ken Baum is almost certainly going to have them high in the luck index. Yeah, they're his second luckiest team in the country right now. Merrimack is. So even though this is expected to be a low-scoring game with a total of 133, I would lay it with Marist if I was going to play it. They're up to that key number of 7 there, though, from 6. 86% of the tickets, 98% of the cash on Merrimack for what it's worth. But it's looking like they might be a public side. I mean, I don't necessarily want to say that as much as you can gauge. You can't really gauge the public that much in these games, but those are my thoughts on that. Northeastern Conference in the afternoon, we have Wagner at Fairleigh Dickinson. This just has kind of an interesting spot, I think, where Wagner just lost at New Haven. Not exactly a great loss. And New Haven's been playing all right this year, although they're new to Division I this year. So maybe it's a little bit of an embarrassing loss for that reason. Wagner, you got to think they're going to be looking for a win, as they've lost 4 games in a row after winning their first conference game. And maybe Wagner's just not that good this year, but I think the spot for Fairleigh Dickinson is fairly awful, as they just took Long Island to the limit, man. And Long Island is the top team in the conference right now. And Fairleigh Dickinson also faces the team that's in second in the conference, Central Connecticut, next. And Central Connecticut was the best team in the conference last year, even though they got upset in the conference final and didn't make the tournament. That's still a big game on deck, I would say, for Fairleigh Dickinson. So I think Wagner is the right side in this game. I think Fairleigh Dickinson could be a bit hungover after that game against Long Island. Fairleigh Dickinson was a big underdog in that game because they're not good. So this game, Fairleigh Dickinson actually did go from a pick'em to a 1-point favorite, but I would be looking to take that point or point and a half with Wagner in that game, the way that I look at that situation. And then we do have the aforementioned Maine playing against New Hampshire here. New Hampshire is in somewhat of a similar spot, though, because they just almost pulled off an upset as well against UMBC. They were a 6.5-point upset, but decent performance from New Hampshire, fell just short. They could be in a flat spot coming off of that. They're playing a 3rd straight road game, which is also not easy to do. But again, Maine just played pretty close against Vermont, and they're coming back home, which in college does make it a little bit easier when you're back at home, and Maine did lose their first conference home game to Bryant, although Bryant, I don't think they're a bad team necessarily, although they're not as good as they were last year, as far as this conference is concerned, at the very least. But when you're a team returning home and you lost your last home game, you do tend to have more focus here. So Maine does have that going for them, but that game against Vermont was big, man, and they almost got that upset. So what do we do in this game? Well, I don't know. The market read is indicating on Maine up from 1 to 2.5 here, 56% of the cash on them. Tickets are even at 50-50. UNH is definitely a really, really bad team. So, I won't really disagree with it because I think UNH having a 3rd straight road game makes it a bit difficult for them. Maine, at least being back home, there was some indication that maybe this should be focused there, but coming off that big game against Vermont does make it a little bit difficult. So that's a stay away for me, obviously. We have an A10 matchup on CBS Sports. Well, CBS Sports, I guess they switch over from, having Colonial to A10 at 3 p.m. They got St. Joe's at VCU. I mean, it might look like an interesting game based on the team's records, because their records are actually pretty close overall and in conference, but VCU is a massive favorite in this game. There's a reason for that. They're the way better team. St. Joe's did just have a nice win over St. Bonaventure, but they are on a 3-game win streak, so maybe they come into this with some momentum. They're not going to overlook VCU. I mean, VCU won this conference last year. They're always one of the better teams in the conference, which they still are. VCU did just end a losing streak by winning at Rhode Island. They're coming back home. Maybe they have some new momentum here. I don't see them overlooking this game either. VCU is a huge favorite. Like I said, they dropped a little bit from 15.5 to 15. But, it looks like such an enormous line based on the team's records. It's one of those lines that kind of messes with your head. So I would probably prefer to lay it with VCU in that game. But that one's it's not anything that I want to jump in and touch in any way. In the Northeastern Conference, that Long Island team that I mentioned, they're coming off that bad performance where they almost lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. So they might have more focus here against Lemoyne, although it's not like Lemoyne is that good. But whenever you almost lose like that, you do usually show up with focus coming into the next game. Lemoyne's not going to overlook Long Island either, though. Lemoyne just beat Chicago State, whatever. So I think both teams show up. But again, if you're getting Long Island as the better team in a focus spot, that might be the way to lean. Although Lemoyne flipped from a 1.5-point dog to a pick 'em now. Looks like the money is actually coming in on the Lemoyne side. But I would somewhat disagree with that, just because I tend to lean towards better teams when they're coming off a scare like that, like Long Island is. McNeese is at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and McNeese, they just took a loss, their second conference loss. They've been a dominant team in this conference, man, the Southland, but now they're actually behind Stephen F. Austin, even though I think they beat Stephen F. Austin already once, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they did. Close, though, at home. But they just lost as a pretty big road favorite at Texas Rio Grande Valley. Pretty ugly loss. It did end a win streak for them, but I'm kind of thinking McNeese will bounce back here and show up with some focus after that against A&M-CC, who's right behind them in the conference now. And A&M-CC has been one of the better teams in the conference recently. A&M-CC is staying at home, and of course they're going to show up for this as well. A&M Corpus Christi, but I would probably prefer to be on the McNeese side in this one. They're laying 7.5. Again, a good team coming off an ugly upset loss. But the money looks like it's indicating on A&M-CC, but I don't really agree with this one. 67% of tickets on McNeese, 67% of the cash on A&M-CC. Might just be maybe some of the money coming in on a numbers play here, like, oh, McNeese is just favored by too much on the road or whatever, but I don't know, man. I mean, the odds makers are telling you McNeese is still the significantly better of these two teams, and the number did initially tick up a little bit with the juice being a little bit loose on the minus 7.5 there. You're gonna parlay the CBS sports games with what, all the favorites: Vermont, VCU, and George Washington. I don't know. I mean, well, you know me, in my mind, I just can't like bring myself to do any parlays because they don't give you good enough odds on them ever. But yeah, I mean, if you want to do it for TV, watching and whatever, I would still recommend straight betting everything, just so if you win more than you lose, you'll still win something. But yeah, I mean, obviously the payout is bigger with a parlay, although it's not big enough. George Washington at George Mason, the battle of the historical Georges, one man against one man. CBS Sports at 5. This game, George Washington just lost at home to Davidson. I think George Washington was a favorite in this game, I would imagine. Yeah, they were 9.5-point favorite, and they lost the game outright. So that is the type of team that I want to look to back after they come off a game like that. George Mason has the better-looking record. They're a one-loss team on the season, but they face a pretty weak schedule. They did have one big conference win against VCU, but their schedule generally has been really, really weak. So I don't think George Mason is as good as their record looks. Yeah, they're at home here. I'm assuming they're going to be a favorite in this game. They're coming off a win over Loyola Chicago that wasn't that impressive. They were kind of in a sandwich spot in that game because they had just beaten VCU. They had Washington on deck, George Washington. I don't know if George Mason covered this number or not. They did not. They were 11.5-point favorites, so Loyola would have been a correct play in that game, which I think I gave that out as a lean on the show. I mean, I have a lot of leans. George Mason has dropped from a 3-point favorite to a 2-point favorite here. The money is coming into George Washington. 80% of the tickets, 93% of the cash on GW here. So, yeah, I do agree with it. So I agree with Jeffrey on, I guess, all three of those. You know, I mean, that parlay price, if you're doing, what are you doing? Like VCU money line? I mean, they're a really hefty money line price. Or you're saying you're going to do a spread parlay. I don't know. But I agree with all three of those teams on the spread. But, I mean, doing that it's of course dangerous because, of course, it's still, when you have three plays, it's still pretty likely at least one of the three is going to lose. You know, it's just the name of the game. Fox Sports 1 has a Big East game randomly, the only big conference game of the day at 6 p.m. And it's a great one between Providence and Marquette. Yeah. When the schedule makers scheduled this, they probably thought this was going to be an interesting game. Yeah, no. Both these teams near the bottom of the Big East are both not playing well. Providence did just beat Creighton. Nice win for them. And now they go out on the road to Milwaukee to play Marquette. Looks like not the greatest situation really for Providence here. They actually played pretty close against Villanova the game before Creighton as well. So I don't really love how it sets up for Providence here. Marquette just lost at DePaul. Now they're coming back home. They've been better at home, though, in conference play. Like, if you look at their home results, they had a fairly bad loss, by 9 at home to Georgetown. But other than that, they only lost by 6 to Seton Hall. They beat Xavier by 1, although Xavier's awful. And they came to within 3 of Villanova at home. So Marquette hasn't been that bad at home. I would lean with Marquette in this one. The money seems to agree. Marquette did drop from 1.5 to pick them, but yeah, I definitely prefer the Marquette side here. Providence has 55% of the cash, 55% of the tickets, on Providence, 61% of the cash on Marquette. I agree with Marquette in that game. Now, I don't know. I just almost consider wanting to play it. I don't know. Providence only has Georgetown next. Was a nice win for them over Creighton, though. Although Creighton's kind of middle of the pack. It was a small upset the Providence pulled. I'll stay away, but I like Marquette in that one. Okay. We have CBS Sports yet again at 7 p.m. They're moving over to the Patriot League with Loyola Maryland at Lehigh. Not a very enticing matchup here. Kyle, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, I think I started late, too, 9:30, because I was trying to handicap all the games here. It took me about an hour today. Loyola just beat Boston University at home. Not a great win or anything, so that might give them some new momentum coming into this game against Lehigh. Lehigh is coming off of playing Navy pretty close, man. And it ended a win streak for Lehigh. So Lehigh losing a win streak. Sometimes when you lose a win streak, you get hung over a little bit, and you essentially lose the same game twice. And that was a big game for Lehigh. They lost by 3 to Navy. Navy's at the top of the conference right now. So I would be leaning towards Loyola Maryland in this game. We don't really see any percentages yet on this. Lehigh is a 5.5-point favorite, which seems a little Lehigh, let's say. Lehigh, not a great team, although obviously neither of these teams are. But I would prefer the Loyola Maryland side in that one. Next up is the other bet that I have in college basketball. If you know how I do things, you know where I'm going with this. It's ugly, but we're going with Southeastern Louisiana plus 5.5 in the Southland against Texas Rio Grande Valley here. Really, the whole scenario here is that Rio Grande Valley just upset McNeese, man. That was a monster win for them. McNeese won the conference last 2 years in dominating fashion. They've been the best team in this conference for really probably 3 years. Will Wade built up the program. Now he's gone over to NC State, but McNeese is still the best team in this conference, even though they've fallen behind Stephen F. Austin. But that was a monster win for Rio Grande Valley. It was almost a double-digit upset. Now staying at home, basking in that win. Sometimes when you have a big win on campus, you become like the big men on campus, you know what I mean? If you're staying at home, it kind of just gets to your head, and you feel overconfident. So I don't like any of that for Rio Grande Valley coming into this. I wish they had a bigger game up next. It's not really big. It's against Houston Christian, but still, I think they're going to be in a letdown spot here. Southeastern Louisiana comes into this game on a 3-game losing streak, so I think they're going to be a little bit hungry for a win. I know it's a second straight road game. They lost to McNeese not that long ago on the road at McNeese, so it looks even easier to play Rio Grande Valley here, looking at that common opponent there, but I don't think that's the way to look at this one. I know it's a second straight road game, but at least the travel isn't as bad here from A&M Corpus Christi over to Rio Grande Valley. I don't think that's a huge travel leg there. So I like Southeastern Louisiana here, man. They're not the greatest team, obviously, but that's how I'm leaning here. Rio Grande Valley is a 5-point favorite now, it looks like. Hopefully there's not much of a difference between 5.5. 136 is the total, so you're looking at a low total here in this one. Now, for Rio Grande Valley, yes, they're the better team. Ken Baum actually has them unlucky as well. So he has them as very unlucky, 346 in luck. So that does indicate the Rio Grande Valley is better than their record looks. They're actually not horrible defensively. They're like middle of the pack defense-wise, barely cracking the top 200 rankings-wise overall. Southeastern Louisiana, they're also better on the defensive side of the ball. Both teams are. They're actually middle of the pack defensively, too. They're just horrendous offensively. So they're actually almost as good as Rio Grande Valley defensively. So their defense can actually match up, and they're fairly unlucky, according to Ken Baum as well. And they play slow. But I believe Rio Grande Valley also plays slow, I believe is what I was going to say. Yeah, both teams are in the bottom third of tempo. So it's likely to be a slow game, as the total also indicates, meaning points more to premium. It's harder for the favorite to cover like that, especially in a bad spot like that. So Southeastern Louisiana is the play for me in that one, plus the points there. Although I think Ken Baum might have that line actually being a little bit higher because he has Rio Grande Valley so undervalued. So like that might be one of the games where the numbers guys actually might prefer Rio Grande Valley in that game, but me being a situational guy, I do not. I think it's a strong situation to fade them. And what I think is a letdown. Probably the biggest game in the Southland is Stephen F. Austin at Nichols. Nichols still doing well in the conference. They're a 2-loss conference team, but Stephen F. Austin is the better of these two teams. They're coming off kind of a close call at New Orleans, continuing their momentum here, 3 wins in a row. Stephen F. Austin's only conference loss was a very close loss on the road at McNeese. So they're a legit team in this conference, man. Nichols may not be, although Nichols, as I showed you, their overall record is really not indicative of what they really are because Nichols played a really difficult out-of-conference schedule. Now, Stephen F. Austin is on a second straight road game, although I think they might be down for it because Nichols is so close to them in the conference standings. Nichols is obviously going to show up too, though, because they've lost 2 games in a row after they got crushed by McNeese. They lost at home to Lamar. That was sandwiched in there between McNeese and Stephen F. Austin, though. So maybe explains the loss a little bit. Stephen F. Austin's up from 3.5 to 4, but the money looks like it's coming in towards the Nichols side. 71% of the tickets on Stephen F. Austin and only 56% of the cash. I kind of agree with the market in that one. I would probably lean towards taking it with Nichols. They are still, at the very least, they're still the more battle-tested team, and the spot to me looks a little bit better for Nichols' bounce back. And Stephen F. Austin might be feeling pretty high on themselves now that they're in first place in the Southland by themselves. So, those are my thoughts on that. And then we do have one pretty good game in the Big Sky here at 8 p.m. Eastern between Montana State and Northern Colorado. Montana State looking really good in the Big Sky so far at 4-1, and Northern Colorado 1-5 to start Big Sky play. But I think Northern Colorado is way under the radar right now. Like I still think they're one of the top 4 or so teams in the Big Sky. So I would not overlook Northern Colorado. And Montana State might because they already beat Northern Colorado at home by 14. That was a win for us on the show, if you remember, because there was a revenge aspect to that for Montana State. Northern Colorado, I believe, Northern Colorado is the team that I believe they knocked Montana State out of the tournament last year, the Big Sky tournament, I mean. Northern Colorado also, I believe, had Montana on deck, and Montana was the team that won the conference last year and had beaten Northern Colorado in the Big Sky tournament. And Northern Colorado, I think, was coming off some big out-of-conference game, too, so it was a great spot to fade them. So Northern Colorado got caught in a bad spot in that one. So Montana State facing them for the second time might actually look past them, especially because Montana State just beat Montana. Big win. I mean, it's a rivalry. Those teams don't like each other, and Montana, of course, had the upper hand last year and won the conference. So that was a big win for Montana State. Northern Colorado, again, they're playing so poorly that you might actually overlook them. And Montana State they have Idaho State next. They're kind of a middle-of-the-pack team in the conference, but still, I could see Northern Colorado being the team that gets up for this game more. They need a win badly, man. They faced a difficult conference schedule, though. Yeah, and Colorado was the game before that Montana State game, by the way. Northern Colorado actually beat Colorado in that game on the road. So they were in a major sandwich spot in that game, I thought, and that's why we got the win on that with Montana State. Northern Colorado, they're not a horrible team, man. I mean, they have a loss by 1 to St. Thomas, and they're in the out of conference, and then they played Texas Tech on the road to within 11. That's not bad, man. So, yeah, Northern Colorado, I think they're way under the radar. Now they're coming off a disgustingly bad loss to Sacramento State. I mean, that is awful. Sacramento State near the bottom of the conference. Horrible loss there. Northern Colorado was definitely a favorite in that game. Losing in overtime to a bad team like that. And Northern Colorado had the lead most of the game, I think. And somehow lost. They were 6.5-point favorites. Look at how they lost, man. Sacramento State had 34 free throw attempts in the game to Northern Colorado's 13. You have to be kidding me. They had 21 more free throw attempts in the game. That's absolutely ridiculous. And Northern Colorado shot somewhat poorly from three-point range in the game, too. But they also had the bigger lead in the game, Northern Colorado did, with an 18-point lead and couldn't finish the game off. I think maybe they started looking ahead to this game or something. I don't know, man. But if you look at their other conference losses, they played all the best teams in the conference, man. They played Montana State on the road, Montana on the road, got a win against Idaho State at home. They played Weber State, who's not really that bad, and lost to Portland State, who still hasn't lost in the conference. Lost to them on the road, although Portland State's faced a weak conference schedule. But still, I think Northern Colorado is way undervalued here, man. Did I talk myself into a play here? I might have. Northern Colorado dropped from 3 to 1.5. It's like, dude, I don't even know how that's... How could the line be like that? Hold on. Ken Bum still is Northern Colorado at 170th in the country. They're not very good defensively. They play on the faster side. Let me see. They're pretty low in his luck index, meaning that they're probably a little bit of an undervalued commodity. Montana. Where does he have Montana? He has them better than Montana. He does not have them better than Montana State, though. But he doesn't have a wide disparity between the two. He's got Montana State being a slow-tempo team. Montana State is a very unlucky team. Montana State's the much more balanced team. Let me see. Northern Colorado's better offensively and worse defensively, and they play fast. So maybe they'll be able to speed this up and throw Montana State out of their element here. And then buy Ken Bum, man. He has Northern Colorado winning by 2, but I would say buy Ken Bum so you get these numbers, man. $30 a year or whatever. It's not bad. You know, Northern Colorado is just so under the radar right now. Montana State's coming off such a big win against Montana. And Northern Colorado just hasn't gotten anything right yet. I think we should do it. I think it's going to be a money line play. Let me see. We're going to have a third play here. You can lay the 1.5 here, or money line minus 125. Yeah, let's do it. Hopefully you can find a decent money line. That's at Caesars. It looks like DraftKings has minus 130 for what it's worth. Although I recommend having as many books as possible, man, at your disposal. So that'll be a money line play. We're adding it on Northern Colorado. Lots of basketball plays today, man. There you go. 3 basketball plays. This is the later one for you. Northern Colorado, money line. All right. Now, let's see. And what do these teams' overall records look like? Let me see. Yeah, Northern Colorado still actually has the better overall record. But, yeah, I like Northern Colorado there. And then we do have a CBS Sports game at 9 p.m. For some reason between NCAAT and Hampton, which I was saying that was a MEAC game. There are some other MEAC games today, I think, but I think this one is actually Norfolk State is playing, but they're playing an out-of-conference game, an out-of-Division I game, actually. I forgot, Hampton and NCAAT, I'm used to them being MEAC because they both used to be MEAC, but they're both in the Colonial now. NCAAT coming off losing to William and Mary, fairly close on the road, only losing by 8. So they played competitively. NCAAT has actually had some competitive results in this conference, even though they've lost every game. They've actually faced a difficult conference schedule so far. Hampton just had a close call at College of Charleston. So I would probably fade Hampton here, man. It looks like the spot is worse for them coming off that pretty big game against Charleston. NCAA to me looks like they're a little bit under the radar. Hampton is a 5.5-point favorite, so the odds maker's still telling you they're the better team, but the line has dropped a little bit. I would probably take the points with NCAA in that one, in that late game, but that's a bit out of my wheelhouse, let's say. Wait, they're part of the... Jeff, what's up, man? They're part of a scandal? What were we talking about? Is there a gambling scandal? Oh, yeah, I think you're right. They've been involved in, like, a gambling scandal. I don't know. If that's the case, I don't really want to touch them. I'd have to read into what's going on with them. Sometimes when you get over that scandal, you, like, start playing better, because then you can just forget about it. You can focus on the game. You don't have players that are point shaving and whatever. But, yeah, I don't know, man. We'll have to see there. All right, let's go to, we'll go to hockey. I need to get more water here. I'm going to have 2 hockey plays here. And if you know how I handicap, you might know what the plays are. I'm going to do that in a second. Let me get more water real quick here. It's the intermission time. Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight, it was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday. And yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. Good to know. So they covered the first game after the news broke. What other teams are involved in it? I don't even know. But yeah, sometimes when you get rid of the players that were doing it or whatever, the team starts playing better, actually. So kind of an interesting phenomenon. I mean, I don't know how often it's really happened. I mean, I know the last team I remember was New Orleans was doing it last year, and their season was a lot worse than it probably should have been because of it. And now this season, they're at least away from that, and they're having like an okay season at the very least. All right, hockey. Change of gears here. We have some afternoon hockey on TNT. There's a doubleheader on TNT, both games in the afternoon. 1:30 p.m. We have Buffalo at Carolina. Pretty interesting game, I guess. I mean, Buffalo's been playing better than expected recently. They are coming off an overtime loss to Minnesota, so kind of a difficult loss there, but they are starting a road trip. They're probably not going to overlook Carolina. Starting a road trip, usually your focus. You want to get the road trip off on the right foot, but they are going to have to play a few really pretty big games in a row because they played, a bunch of big games. They played Florida, Philadelphia, Montreal, then Minnesota. And they played well in the Minnesota game. I think I remember I liked Minnesota in that game. They did get it done, but barely so. But now carrying, not momentum really, but now going out on the road, usually first game of the road trip is usually a positive spot, though. Carolina, they did just beat New Jersey on the road in what I thought was a bad spot for them. I don't know how they did that in the back-to-back with travel off of smashing Florida 9-1. So we had a win on the game against Florida and a loss on the game going against Carolina with New Jersey. Now Carolina's back home off of that. They're probably not going to overlook Buffalo, though. I mean, they only play Chicago next, so I don't know. It's a tough game to handicap for me. The money is coming in on Carolina. They're up from minus 195 to minus 200. 65% of the tickets and 86% of the cash on Carolina. I mean, it's interesting because the odds makers are telling you Carolina's the way better team, and to maybe not totally buy into Buffalo's record here. I'm not going to really disagree with Carolina here. I mean, you'd probably have to play like a puck line if you wanted to actually do it, though. Or judging based on the fact that the total is pretty high, and it looks like there is some money actually coming in on the over in the game. Maybe Carolina over their team total could be a way to look at that game as well. Buffalo, not very impressive from a goaltending perspective. And again, the spot doesn't look as good for Buffalo. It looks like they might be tired, even though it is the first game of a road trip. Second game of the TNT doubleheader is also pretty decent. Washington at Colorado. Washington, they're starting a road trip as well, I believe. Yeah, they are. So again, starting a road trip, usually you are focused. For Washington, I kind of like how it sets up a little bit better because they lost the last 2 games at home to San Jose and then losing by 3 goals to Florida. So I think it'll be good for them to just leave, get out of home, focus on hockey. So it's not a bad spot for Washington, but they're running into a Colorado team that is also not in a bad spot. They're probably going to be really angry. Colorado's just staying at home, and they've lost 2 straight games, and they've been off since Friday. So they had the whole weekend to just stew after losing at home in overtime to Toronto and then losing again horribly to Nashville, 7-3. I don't know if Wedgwood is coming back or not, although Blackwood was in net in the last game. Whoever it is, I think Colorado is pretty much in a bounce-back spot here, and I probably prefer them in this game, although both teams are in decent spots. But getting the better team in what should be a very focused spot, again, probably is the way that I would want to go. Colorado up from minus 200 to minus 210 on the money line, though. 88% of tickets, 94% of the cash coming in Colorado. Could look to a Colorado puck line scenario in this game, maybe, to try to get that price down to some extent. All right. Next game up is one of my plays, the weird 5 p.m. game. The rest of these games are not televised. They're all on ESPN+. So, again, I think it's worth it to have ESPN+. You get so many games, dude. A lot of hockey games, a lot of everything, really. You get a ton of college basketball, which I really like. So, I know I'm grandfathered in, basically, and I have it through the Disney bundle, unfortunately, but I mostly use it for having ESPN Plus when I can stomach watching games. But Pittsburgh at Seattle, let's go. It's time for the best bet. We are going to be on Pittsburgh in this one, so yeah, Jeffrey, I guess, will be happy about this. I mean, it's all about the spot, man. I don't think Pittsburgh is as good as their record looks, anything like that. They have a ton of OT losses and whatever, but this is a spot where I think playing Pittsburgh does make sense. They're coming off a shootout loss at home to Columbus. Not a very good loss there. They were coming off a big win over Philly the game before that, so maybe kind of a letdown spot. And they played Tampa into a shootout the game prior to that, so I think could have been a bit of a letdown spot. Silovs was in net in that one, so it should be Skinner back in net here, which is probably a better thing, even though I'm not a huge fan of him either, but should be an all right thing for Pittsburgh. But the better thing is they're going out on the road to start a road trip, and as I always say, a lot of times that can help start you some new momentum coming off a pretty ugly home loss. One of the best things you can do is just forget about it. Just go out on the road. This is not going to be a late night game starting a Pacific Coast trip. Sometimes if it's a really late game, it can mess with your biological clock. But this game's going to be over 7, 8 p.m. Eastern time, so it doesn't matter that much. It's not going to really be that bad on their biological clock. And for Seattle, the spot is way worse. I mean, this is a Seattle team that is really not that good. Not even as good as their record looks. They're not good. And they're returning home from a road trip that they've been on since Saturday the 10th. So, you know what I always talk about when teams return home from road trips. And this one went to the East Coast, then into Utah, to elevation. And the public tendency is well, the team's going to bounce back now that they're at home if they had a bad road trip. But I don't think it matters. If the road trip was bad, if it was good, Doesn't matter, man. The factor remains the same. When a team returns home, stuff is piled up to do at home, and sometimes it just distracts you too much, man. You got to get to it. And, yeah, I mean, those women, man, women and children, they're such a distraction, especially the women. But it is true. I mean, it's a phenomenon that it plays out historically, so that's why I do it. It's one of the strongest phenomena in NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball as well. So that's what we're doing here. It's possible they overlook Pittsburgh, with Pittsburgh not playing as well recently, and the Islanders are the next opponent for Seattle. They've been playing well this season, so there is a possible look ahead, and that's a TV game on TNT on Wednesday, so they might look ahead to that game, man. So I think this is a horrible spot, and when a team is in a horrible spot like this in a return home spot, I think it's even worse when it's a bad team like Seattle. So we're going to go with the Penguins in this one, and the money seems to concur. They're up from -111 to -126 on the money line. 67% of the tickets and 82% of the cash on Pittsburgh. I agree with the market in that one, and that is play number 1 in hockey. No, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. What is that? I don't even know what that is. I don't think I'm out of the loop in the fantasy whatever. I don't know what we're talking about. Next game up is my next play. All right, best bets are back to back. We're taking the San Jose Sharks again, man. They're all right to us last time. They were actually really good to us, I think, the last time, right? They got a win for us. Let's do it again, baby. We're gonna fade the Panthers. So another, Jeffrey-approved game, probably. San Jose is starting a road trip. Or no, excuse me, they're not starting a road trip. My mistake. They're in the middle of a road trip. They've had the entire weekend off. My mistake. So they lost to Detroit, but they were, in somewhat of a weird spot there. It was a back-to-back. They'd beaten Washington the prior day, so you can kind of see why they lost that game at Detroit. Askarov was in net. You'll probably get Nedeljkovic back in net here, and he is, I believe, the better of the two goalies, although they've kind of just alternated between the two, and it doesn't matter that much between the two for San Jose, but I think they're going to be focused on Florida, man. It's a big game against the back-to-back returning champs, and now San Jose's had 2 days off to recuperate after a loss, which usually is good. It's good to have rest when you're losing, man, so that's what San Jose is doing here. I think they're going to show up refreshed and kind of like this is starting a new road trip almost. Now that they're down in Florida. For the Florida Panthers, I think this is a bad spot. They just had a nice win over Washington to bounce back from that awful game against Carolina. I kind of did like Florida, even though it was a back-to-back. They'd had a lot of days off prior to the Carolina game. Florida got the job done, even though Tarasov was in net for that one. Now, it will be Bobrovsky back in net. They're better goalie, but they've lost 3 of his last 5 games, so actually 4 of his last 6. So it's not like they've been that great with Bobrovsky in net. And Florida is returning home from a road trip now. So not only are they coming off that big win over Washington, nice win, they're returning home from a road trip they've been on since January 6th. So they've been on the road for almost 2 weeks. They went up to Canada, and then they stayed Eastern time zone, but they went up to Canada. It was a long road trip, man, and it still remains that when you return home from a road trip, you can be a bit distracted. Got to get back to home life. Maybe they overlooked the Sharks because they're still kind of a middling team out there from the other conference. Up next, I wish Florida had a bigger game up next to make this even stronger. They play Winnipeg next, but even so, it's still a bad spot. I think the return home spot. I think it might be a letdown spot of it beating Washington as well. So we're going to be on San Jose, and it's going to be a split bet, partially on the +1.5 puck line, partially on the money line. And you can see the way I calculated it here. If you do it based on 100, 58 or so, basically percent of the bet goes on the -150 portion of it on the puck line. So then basically the goal is, so if they cover the puck line, you're going to push the bet, essentially, if you do it this way. So the amount that you win on that is the same that you risk on the money line, which you're putting on the money line to win more if they win that as the underdog. So it's, it's a bit more risk-averse way of doing it, but I like it. Florida's dropped from -185 to -183. 58% of tickets and 59% of the cash on Florida, so it's hard to read these percentages right now, but I like San Jose in this spot. I think they're in a positive spot, but I also think Florida's in a bad spot, so That is what we're doing there. I don't know. I don't look ahead like that. This is not chess. Will the Flyers win a game this week? I don't fucking know. It depends on what they do. Every game depends on what the team did in the previous game. Are they going to win at Vegas tonight? Probably not. Minnesota at Toronto. Let me see. Minnesota just beat Buffalo. That's right. We already talked about that. They won in overtime. They broke a losing streak. Decent win over Buffalo, but maybe it'll give them some new momentum coming into this. However, they do have Montreal next, and then Detroit, Florida. All those teams are probably bigger teams than Toronto is. Like, Toronto just hasn't been that good recently, but Toronto's in a bad spot, dude. Toronto's returning home from a road trip. They've been on the road since last Monday. They went out into elevation. They went out to the Pacific time zone, and they went up to Canada. And on that road trip, they won at Colorado in overtime. They lost at Vegas in a game that they blew in the final 3 seconds, I want to say, of regulation, and then lost in overtime at Vegas, and then they won in overtime against Winnipeg. So the spot is not good, I would say, for Toronto here, even though my concern is that, well, Minnesota's still a team you might show up for because they're good. That's the only concern. They do play Detroit next on TV, so that's a big game as well. Overall, yeah, I would lean to Minnesota in this game overall, obviously. And Minnesota's only going from, from Buffalo to Toronto. So it's a much easier travel spot for Minnesota to do that. So I definitely prefer Minnesota here. And, of course, Toronto returning home from a road trip. Bad spot. They can get distracted. You wind up getting distracted by home life and whatever. Again, my hesitation is that they still might show up for Minnesota, and Minnesota is coming off a big win-ish over Buffalo, and they do play Montreal tomorrow, and might consider that to be a bigger game. So that is my one concern there, really, or a couple of concerns. But I like Minnesota in the game. The money seems to agree. They're an underdog as well. Toronto down from -121 to -116. 54% of the tickets, 92% of the cash on Minnesota. Money is on Minnesota. I agree with it. And, yeah, you're getting them at a decent underdog price, although it is weird to see Toronto as a favorite. I mean, the odds makers are telling you Minnesota's the slightly better team, but based on their records, you would think that, that Minnesota would be a significantly better team, and they're not. So as far as, like, the numbers are concerned, it looks like almost kind of one of those lines where it looks too easy to play Minnesota. But I agree with Minnesota. The money seems to agree with it as well. I'm never relaxed, man. I'm always on edge. Everything is anxiety. That's how I am. I can't do anything about it. That's it. I'm not going to take drugs for it. I'm not going to get all pharmaceuticaled up. Philadelphia is at Vegas here. Philadelphia coming off a loss to the Rangers. They've lost 6 games in a row. I think Vegas is on a huge win streak, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Vegas has won 6 games in a row. So we have opposing 6-game streaks here. The one good thing for Philadelphia is they're going out on the road to start a road trip. And that's a good thing when things aren't going well at home. Forget about it. Go out on the road. They are playing a 4th game in 6 days, though, all in different cities. So that's not easy because I guess they only had 1 game at home, and now they go back out on the road. I did lean to the Rangers in that game, and I was correct about that. If you look at these losses for Philadelphia, it was 2 losses to Tampa Bay, then at Buffalo, at Pittsburgh, at home in kind of a bad spot against the Rangers. I mean, some of those losses you can kind of excuse, but you can't really excuse the way that they've lost most of these games, losing by 5, 4, 3, 3, 3, giving up 5+ goals in all 5 of their most recent 5 games. That's bad. That's all bad. But maybe going out on the road again, maybe they'll focus a little bit on defense, something like that. Maybe have a better game. It is not a horrible spot for them, really, although you do have to worry about the rest a little bit. And by the way, I forgot to mention, Florida is playing a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities, so we're fading them in a spot where they're not exactly rested. For Vegas, they're staying at home, although they just obliterated Nashville at home in their last game. They're also playing a 4th game in 6 days, but most of them are at home, so that alleviates the situation a little bit. They just crushed Nashville. They do start a road trip and play Boston next. Is that really going to be a look ahead, though? I mean, does Boston really command your attention at this point? I don't know, but maybe it's possible they overlooked Philadelphia just because Philadelphia's been playing poorly. I don't know, man. I mean, the money is saying Philadelphia in this one. I don't know. I don't really see them winning the game, but I mean, the spot is slightly better for them, I guess. Vegas down from minus 210 to minus 200. 91% of the tickets, only 88% of the cash on Vegas. You know, the money is saying Philadelphia. Vegas is very public. If you want to do it, I guess Philadelphia puck line is the way to play that game. The total's gone down a little bit. I mean, I could see maybe an argument that, well, Philly's got to focus on defense for once and go under Vegas's team total or something, but that seems dangerous to me just because Philadelphia is giving up a shit ton of goals. So many that it seems really, really dangerous to do it. So, yeah. Breakdowns on the weak side, yeah. This Philadelphia team, I don't think they're good defensively, and I don't think they're good goaltending-wise either. So, I don't know, man. But yeah, probably if I was going to play that game, it would be a puck line Philadelphia play. But I really don't want to play that game. The strongest one that I've left off my card is Minnesota so far. I like Minnesota. Winnipeg at Chicago. Winnipeg just lost a 4-game win streak. Overtime loss at home to Toronto. Sometimes when you lose a win streak, it will hang you over into the next game. So that is a little bit of a concern. They only play St. Louis next, so I don't know. But it is fairly easy to overlook Chicago, although Winnipeg, you know, they're still not really playing that well right now. They have a bad record, so they can't really afford to overlook anybody. Chicago is staying at home. They just lost pretty ugly to my Bruins. They've had a horrible homestand, so I think they're going to want to at least try to salvage the last game of this homestand. Even though they do have Carolina up next, I don't see Chicago overlooking this game. I would probably lean to Chicago. The money is saying that as well. It's not a strong market read, but it is tickets and cash on opposing sides at least. Winnipeg up from minus 135 to minus 136. So the odds makers are telling you Winnipeg is the better team here, but 55% of the tickets on them, 53% of the cash coming back on the Blackhawks side. So I'll agree with the Chicago side, but not a strong opinion. Devils at Flames. New Jersey at Calgary here. Let me see. Devils just had that bad home loss to Carolina. I thought they were in a good spot in that one, man. Maybe those extra days off hurt their momentum. I don't know what it was, but now they might be able to get some new momentum because they're starting a road trip. And I always talk about how when you start a road trip, usually you start with focus because you want to get the road trip off on the right foot. Problem is, New Jersey does play Edmonton tomorrow, so it's possible they overlook this game because that's a TV game, bigger game against Edmonton. So that's a little bit of a concern there as far as New Jersey maybe lacking in focus a little bit. Calgary returned home in their last game. They returned home from a road trip, and they still won against the Islanders. So they did not lapse in focus. They did not fall into that distraction spot. They won. Nice win against the Islanders. Now, do they show up for a struggling New Jersey team? Do they look ahead to Pittsburgh? I don't know. It's possible. I could see Calgary being in a little bit of a letdown spot here at the very least, but the money is coming in on the Calgary side after New Jersey went up from minus 116 to minus 121. 55% of the tickets and 72% of the cash on Calgary. You know, it might get to the point where is Calgary really going to be a public side or anything like that? I mean, it doesn't really totally look like it now, but it looks like maybe there's the makings of maybe the market winding up looking that way. I don't know. I'd probably slightly lean to the Devils in that game because they are still the better team. I still think the spot might be a little bit better for them, but I have my concerns about it, obviously. Islanders are at Vancouver. The Islanders just took that loss at Calgary, like I said. Now they're going to Vancouver. They've been alternating wins and losses on the road trip here, so if that continues, they should win at Vancouver here. The Islanders are the better team. Vancouver's not good. Vancouver has lost a ton of games in a row, though, so they might be in desperation mode trying to get a win. They've lost 10 games in a row. Most of them are on the road, though, so it was a road trip that went totally wrong. They returned home and they got destroyed by Edmonton 6-0. So now they're in a spot where second game back home, sometimes it is a better spot, especially when you don't do well in that first game back home. Now you're settled. Now you get some of the stuff you have to do at home out of the way. You could focus on hockey. So I probably actually lean to Vancouver in this game. The money seems like it agrees. The Islanders are down from -140 to -136. 84% of tickets, 60% of the cash on the Islanders. So the ticket percentage and less of the money on the Islanders. So the money is indicating on the Vancouver side. I don't disagree with it, really. I think Vancouver is in the greater bounce back spot. After you lose 6-0 at home, I mean, I think you're going to show up with intensity in the next game. And then we have Rangers at Anaheim. The Rangers are, of course, a better road team than a home team. And they did win to start the road trip. It was in Philadelphia. Now they have to go out to the Pacific Coast. Sometimes that first Pacific Coast game is a little bit tricky, even though I usually like starts of road trips and things like that, although this isn't one of those. But that first game out west for an East Coast team sometimes is bad biologically because it's late night, biological clock. Maybe not the greatest spot, although the Rangers, again, they're good on the road. They just ended a 5-game losing streak. It was a pretty nice win over Philadelphia, though, so does that put them in a letdown spot? I don't know. It might be good because it might break their momentum, though, so they might have some new winning momentum now after that. Anaheim does have winning momentum. They did just beat L.A. twice after beating Dallas, but maybe they overlooked the Rangers, man, because beating L.A., I mean, L.A. and Anaheim, they're close by geographically, kind of rivals-ish. They don't really like each other. Rangers might be a team that you might overlook at this point, and Anaheim plays Colorado next. So based on how this sets up here, I probably have to lean to the Rangers, although the money is not agreeing with that. Anaheim dropped from -138 to -130, but the Rangers have 62% of the tickets, 67% of the cash on Anaheim, but I would slightly lean towards the Rangers in that one as the road dog. Rangers much better on the road, man, like I said. Although Anaheim's been good at home, though. Anaheim's 14-8-1 at home. Rangers 16-9-2 on the road, though. So we have both teams on the better side of their home road splits in that game. All right, we got NBA. I will have two plays in the NBA here. The NBA, the first game up is at 1 p.m. on Peacock. And then there's an NBC triple header where all those games are also on Peacock. Peacock, because it's a streaming service, they can have multiple games on simultaneously. Milwaukee, Atlanta at 1 p.m. gets the bastard treatment, even though Atlanta is the MLK team on MLK Day, but they don't get the NBC billing because it's not a good game. Although one of the games on NBC, the middle one is it's pretty questionable how good that game really is. Milwaukee and Atlanta, I mean, but the one thing about this game is neither of these teams are doing very well. Milwaukee's lost 3 more games in a row, although 2 of them were on the road, and those losses were Denver, Minnesota, San Antonio. Those are good teams. Now they've had 3 days off, so that might help Milwaukee, because when you're losing, sometimes it's good to just break that momentum, have some rest, focus back on your next game. They do have Oklahoma City next, though, on ESPN on Wednesday, so that's a big game. Is it going to be a look ahead? I don't know, man, because you can't really afford to overlook anybody when you're losing like this, I don't think. Now, for Atlanta, they just got blasted by the Celtics, but that was in a return home spot, so it wasn't a good spot for Atlanta. Celtics, not a team you're going to overlook, but I think maybe the distractions got to them, whatever. The Celtics ran away with that game. Atlanta staying at home, playing Milwaukee here. By the way, Sam Hauser in this game had the most ridiculous stat line that you will ever see. He's the first player in NBA history to score at least 30 points without attempting a 2-point shot. Sam Hauser never took a 2-point shot in the game, and he scored 30 points. Literally all of his points came on 3-pointers. 10 for 21 from 3-point range, and he never took a 2-point shot. I've never seen anything like that. I quote tweeted. I tweeted it out. I said that's the whitest stat line that you will ever see, man. It's insane. It's so ridiculous. But anyway, Celtics hit a lot of 3-pointers in that game, which is not out of the ordinary for the Celtics. Now, Atlanta's staying at home off of that. They are in a second game back at home, which I think Saab might have pointed this out the other day. So, yeah, it should be a positive spot for them because when you have a bad game, that first game back home, you will bounce back more often than not. In the next game, you'll be more focused. You'll have gotten the stuff done you need to get done at home. But I don't know about this, man. The money's coming in towards the Bucks. Hawks are down from 3 to 2.5 here. 51% of tickets, 66% of the cash coming in on the Bucks. Some of that might be because the Bucks are the more rested team here. Both teams are in positive spots here, man. So I would probably prefer an under in this game, to be honest. We have 82% of the cash on the over, 51% of the cash on the under. Having rest sometimes makes sense for an under because your offense can come out a little bit slow. To me, it seems like both teams are going to be more focused on the defensive end of things. So the under I would probably actually prefer in this game to a side, but the money is coming in on the Bucks plus the points. I see both teams being focused though, so I kind of struggle with picking a side in that game. I kind of slightly leaned to Atlanta based on the situation, but not a strong opinion, and the market does not agree with me on that. It does agree with the under though. The first NBC game, which is also on Peacock at 2:30, is OKC at Cleveland, Oklahoma City and Cleveland. This is a pretty interesting game, man. It's a good game. Oklahoma City did just lose a five-game win streak. So sometimes when a team loses a win streak, it will hang them over into the next game. It could also be a bounce-back spot, though, because Oklahoma City, they're the type of team that you would think they're the type of team that does bounce back, but let's look at what they've done otherwise when they've lost. First time they lost against Portland, they did bounce back with a blowout win. The next times they've lost, they lost that game to San Antonio in the NBA Cup, and they had a lot of time off after that, though, and they did have a blowout win after that. After a loss to Minnesota, I think, covered the next game against Memphis, but it might have been close. They won by double digits, though. But then the last two times they lost, they actually lost the next game as well. So the last two times they lost, they did actually lose the game twice, literally, kind of. So we'll see. And one of those is a horrible blowout loss to Charlotte, which was unbelievable. The other one was a double loss to San Antonio, and we know San Antonio is good. So it's interesting to see how Oklahoma City responds. I could see it going both ways here. I think they will show up, though. It's a big game, TV game, on a holiday. Cleveland is coming off winning back-to-back, well, not back-to-back, but winning 2 straight games on the road against Philadelphia in a span of 3 days, and now they have a couple of days off, and maybe those days off won't help them because when things are working well, you don't want to have days off, man. You don't want to have your momentum disrupted. So Cleveland coming off those games against Philly, those were better performances from Cleveland. So I don't know, man. If you're going to get a focused Thunder team here, I think I would probably have to lean to the Thunder here. They're 6.5-point favorites. 69% of tickets, 94% of the cash coming in on the Thunder. I'll probably lean that way. The market is agreeing with it as well. Looking at the injuries here, we got Garland still out for Cleveland. Strus has been out for a long time, and so is Merrill. So really the one that's been the more recent injury is Garland. And then Hartenstein is still out for Oklahoma City. And it looks like they're actually going to lose Jalen Williams as well, although, yeah, he's actually the more, he's the bigger of the two Jalen Williams, the one who's a bigger factor. So there are actually injuries on both sides coming into play, but the Thunder are also the deeper team. So it's crazy that the Thunder can just overcome injuries like that, but that's the situation there. 3 p.m., not televised anywhere. You're probably not going to like this. So we're going to lay a road favorite here with the LA Clippers, -7 at this Washington team that I just can't get right recently, so fuck them. We're going to fade them here. But they're a bad team, and I think they're in a bad spot in this one, man. We're going to play the Clippers here. I know the Clippers have an awful record. Like, why would anybody want to lay 7 on the road with an 18-23 team, right? Well, the Clippers have been playing better recently since they've figured some stuff out. They've started to kind of coalesce into that team that they were kind of supposed to be. I know they did just beat Washington in LA by double digits, but I don't know if this is going to be a spot where they're necessarily going to overlook Washington here. And I'm going to show you in a minute. The spot for Washington is horrible, which is why we're doing this. LA, it is a little bit of a concern that they did have the weekend off, which might disrupt their momentum. They did just win in Toronto in overtime. Decent win. Their next game tomorrow is only against Chicago, though, so I don't really know that they're going to be necessarily looking ahead to that game. Washington coming into this game in a terrible spot, though, in my opinion. Washington's coming into this with 6 straight losses, and they're playing a third game in 4 days, a fourth game in 6 days, all in different cities. So a lot of travel, and they're coming home from a road trip as well. So that's why I'm doing this, man. I think this is a horrible spot for them, returning home from a road trip. And it's usually even stronger to fade bad teams when they're in a bad spot like this, like I said. Washington went out to Phoenix, LA, like I said, and then Sacramento. And then they went into elevation on Saturday. And what did they do against Denver? They almost won at Denver. And I know it's Denver without Jokic, but Washington was winning this game throughout the second half, and then they wound up falling just short against Denver. That's a brutal loss. They were double-digit underdogs in that game, and that was their last game. On top of this being a return home spot where you have to get back to home life, you got stuff to do. So it's a hangover spot and a return home spot. I don't like it at all, man. And they play Denver again next, although it's not until Thursday. But to me, it looks like a bad spot, man, even though they did lose to the Clippers on that road trip. I don't like this at all. What was the line in this game? Yeah, it was about right, 11.5. So the fact the line is 7 here is not way off from that line or anything like that. Again, horrible spot for the Clippers. We will go with, or horrible spot for the Wizards, excuse me. We will go with the Clippers and hope they can continue their momentum here. They're up from 5.5 to 7. 70% of the tickets on them, though, and 67% of the cash coming back on the Wizards side. You know, a lot of times that a market read like that will keep me off the game, man. But I'm going to go with my situational read on this one. I have to kind of figure out, because sometimes I'll be like, I can't do it just because of the market read. But the spot is just so bad for the Wizards. I'm like, I think I have to do this. So that's the play. Clippers minus the points. Can't be afraid to lay points on the road in the NBA, man. It's the one sport where that is the case, especially against a bad team in a horrible spot. So that is what we're doing there. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. NBC and Peacock, the next game up is the one that I don't know why this is even one of the NBC games. Dallas at the New York Knicks. By the way, that 11 a.m. game is about to start, so enjoy that piece of crap game with Northeastern and whatever. I talked about that at the top of the show. Did not have a play in it. Dallas, they're coming up back-to-back wins over Utah, easy wins. Now, it's kind of a weird spot for them, having a single game travel spot to go to New York. Kind of weird, but they're doing it with momentum, and I don't think they're going to overlook the Knicks. For the Knicks, we got to see what's going on with Jalen Brunson, though. I don't know if he came back yet or not. The Knicks have lost 3 games in a row. One of them was a return home spot, though. So the Knicks are now in one of those second games back home. So they had a bad game in the return home spot. They lost to the Suns again. Now, I think second game back home, they might be in a better spot here, man, to show up and do something. Because when you lose that game back at home, first game back at home, as I always say, you get distracted, whatever, by being back home. You tend to do better the next game. So I think that might happen here for the Knicks. But the problem is, if Brunson is returning in this game, you know, I don't really want any part of the Knicks if that's going to be the case. He's questionable right now. He hasn't played since he got hurt in that game against the Kings during the road trip. So if Brunson comes back, it's going to be a reverse injured player spot. And to me, it looks like he probably is, because the line's 10.5 right now. So that seems to kind of indicate that he is going to play. And if so, I don't like it as much because, again, it's the reverse injured player spot. He has to get used to playing again. Team's got to get used to him being back in there again. You usually get line value going against that team because usually the line just overreacts to him coming back. And the Knicks are public. 85% of tickets, only 80% of the cash on them. I'll slightly agree with that. I'll somewhat agree with taking the points with the Mavs in that one. If Brunson's coming back, I think that does make it that makes it a worse spot with less value for the Knicks. Utah and San Antonio is my other play here, and I think this one is also not agreeing with the market. And I don't care. We're going to play the Utah Jazz. Let's go. Let's go Utah, man. Plus 16.5 against San Antonio. Utah's coming up those 2 losses at Dallas. They're staying in Texas at least. They're going to try to maybe salvage something at the end of this road trip here. They did have 1 win to start the road trip at Cleveland, but probably going to want to try to get this one, although I don't think it's likely that they're going to win, but we only need them to cover here. Yeah, I know they're playing a 4th game in 6 days. It's not really all in different cities, though, because they played 2 games in Dallas. And I know Dallas to San Antonio is not really that close of a trip, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not really that big of a trip either. So I like this. You got to think you're going to get some effort out of Utah here at the very least. Looking at the injury report in this one, Markkanen is going to be out, so that is a concern. You're going to get some extra value there because he is one of their best players. He's going to be out. He hasn't played since the 12th. So, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a concern, but it's factored into the line and whatever. And it's not one of the games, it's not his first game out, which would be actually better to play Utah. But it's also not like a reverse injured player, a reverse 6 spot where he's coming back or anything like that. But I think San Antonio's in a bad spot here as they just beat Minnesota. That was a nice win for them. And they play tomorrow. They have an NBC game. Not today, they don't, but tomorrow they play Houston in Houston on NBC and Peacock. So I think the spot is actually worse for San Antonio here. I think it's a sandwich spot, so we will be on the Jazz. The money actually does kind of seem to agree with it. We're looking at 16.5, maybe even 17 here. 64% of the tickets and 69% of the cash on the Jazz. The total is a little bit high, which I would prefer taking the points at a lower total game, obviously, but it is what it is. 240, whatever is the total, 241.5. I like the Jazz in that one, plus the points. It's a sandwich spot for the Spurs. Indiana at Philadelphia. For Indiana here, they just got destroyed by Detroit the other day. They're playing a 3rd game in 4 days now, though, all in different cities. They do play Boston next, but after getting annihilated like that, I think you're going to be embarrassed and you're going to show up. Philadelphia, they're probably not going to overlook. Philadelphia coming in off 2 losses as well, but they were both against Cleveland, so that second one was a tough loss. It was a close loss to Cleveland. They have had 2 days off, though. They were off over the weekend, so that might help them break that momentum a little bit. They play Phoenix next, so maybe there is a little bit of a look-ahead component there. Overall, I probably lean to the Pacers here. The Sixers are down from 10-7 here, so that might mean the Sixers might be resting some guys today here. 79% of the tickets, only 61% of the cash on the Sixers, so the money is fading the Sixers in this one, and I don't really disagree with it. Let me see what's going on. It looks like, Embiid and George are just game-time decisions like they always are, but based on the fact that the line is dropped, I think probably at least one of them is not going to play in this game. So that is the situation there. Phoenix at Brooklyn. Phoenix just beat the Knicks, so right away I'm looking at this and thinking it's going to be a letdown spot. They're hanging around in New York. They actually had a few big games in a row. They played close at Miami. Then they played even closer at Detroit. Then they beat the Knicks, although I believe it was the Knicks without Brunson, but still beating the Knicks on the road, beating the Knicks for the 2nd straight time in January. Pretty big, man. Could be a letdown spot here. They got Philly tomorrow, so it looks like a sandwich spot basically for Phoenix. So why am I not on the Nets here? Well, the Nets have the Knicks next, so that worries me a little bit, and the Celtics after that, and the Nets are on a back-to-back here, so that is what my worry is here. They just went to Chicago yesterday, and they did get blown out, but they're now playing a 3rd game in 4 days, a 4th game in 6 days, 5th game in 8 days, and actually it's a 6th game in 9 days, so that's really what worries me about this, man, is the amount of travel they've done. Most of those games are on the road, too, and it's just a packed schedule that Brooklyn is facing here, so that's my concern with the Nets here. I just can't get involved with it, man. The money's coming in on the under, interestingly, in this game, because I think that it's the type of game that looks like an over type of game to me. The total's really low, down to 217, so usually you expect these low totals to go under, but because there's a reason why it's that low, but when teams are in bad spots, a lot of times the defense gets affected more. The public is really on the Suns. 92% of tickets, only 72% of the cash on them. They've gone up through that key-ish number 7 to 8 now. So, I mean, I guess based on the market read, the Nets plus the points are the side to look at in the game. But I just showed you, I just can't do it, man. It is a bad spot for the Suns where they might not show up, but the Nets have played so many games in such a short stretch. I can't do it. I don't like it. Cleveland won on an uncontested dunk. Is that more rigging of games going on there? I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, in a case like that, I mean, you obviously have to contest it because if they get the dunk, you're going to lose the game. So it's not like I can't foul him. Well, you know, the worst case scenario is obviously that he just gets the dunk and you lose. At least if you foul him, he might miss the free throws. So I don't know. And there might be a little bit of time left for you to get a shot off, depending on if it was a buzzer beater or anything like that. My Boston Celtics are they're the late game on NBC and Peacock. So the afternoon game and the late game are both pretty good games. Boston at Detroit here. The Celtics coming into this game off of destroying Atlanta. Like I said, they do have momentum coming into this one. And I don't think they're going to overlook Detroit. I think these teams are 1-1 against each other this season so far. I think the home team won each game, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But the Celtics are coming into this with momentum. I don't think they're not going to overlook Detroit or anything like that after crushing the Hawks. Like, who really cares? Detroit coming into this one off of destroying the Pacers. So both teams are coming off of blowout wins. Detroit's staying at home, so the travel spot's a little bit better for them. I probably lean Celtics, though. The money is coming in that way. Detroit's already dropped from 4.5 to 3 here. So that 4.5, I think, was too high. I mean, the odds makers initially telling you the Pistons are the better team, but I think these two teams are pretty close power ratings wise, man, believe it or not. I know the Pistons have a really good record, but if you look at what the power ratings guys say, and even now the line is down to 3, the odds makers are almost at the point where they're telling you these teams are almost even. Pistons getting home court and maybe an extra point or so there. The Knicks are the top power rated team in the Eastern Conference. And then I think it's really basically between the Pistons and the Celtics. So I don't know, man. 55% of tickets, 70% of the cash coming in on the Celtics. I agree with it, although, you know, hopefully my bias isn't factoring into that, but let's go Celtics, I guess. But, that's the way that I lean. It's not a play or anything. And then Miami is at Golden State. My first look at this was, well, we're going to want to fade Miami here. I mean, Miami just beat Oklahoma City after playing the Celtics pretty close. And I believe Miami blew a lead in that game, too, against the Celtics. Celtics bench players came through big in that game. Celtics bench coming through big in a lot of these games, man. So Miami coming off a couple of big games. They're starting a road trip, and usually I do say when you start a road trip, you're going to be focused, but maybe not. It could be a letdown spot here, man. Beating Oklahoma City was huge. So I don't know. Although it is still Golden State, it is still Curry, it is still the Warriors, so maybe Miami will still show up for it. It is the start of a road trip where you usually do want to get the road trip off on the right foot. Golden State is just staying at home, and they do have momentum right now. They just beat Charlotte in what I thought might be a bit of a letdown off of beating the Knicks, but nope, they won easily against Charlotte. So I think Golden State is still the preferable side here in this game. The Warriors are down from 6.5 to 5.5 here, but 71% of tickets and 80% of the cash on the Warriors. You know, I'm somewhat tempted here, man. I just worry that maybe Miami still will show up in a game against the Warriors here. What does the injury report look like here? The other Curry is out, but that doesn't really matter. Draymond Green, game time decision. I mean, he's old. I don't think that really matters. Hero is still out for Miami. That's the one big thing with Miami here. I like how for Rozier, he's out with not injury related. Oh, you mean he's out with with like being suspended for gambling? You mean, is that what you mean? Oh man, man. You know, I'm tempted to add this one. Like, we already have a ton of plays today too. Do I want to add another one on this packed day here? I'll stay off of it, but I do like the Warriors in that one, man. I like the Warriors in it. Okay. I already added Northern Colorado, too. Now we're going to go to the College Football Championship to finish the show off here. You know, as soon as that last game finished, as soon as that Indiana game finished, I was like, man, like nobody's going to want Miami in this game. And maybe it is a little bit misleading, man. I think we got to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to take the points with Miami. Nobody's going to want to do this, but that's the way it's going to be. I actually make it Miami, Florida, just to call. It's not Miami, Ohio. What? They're not in the championship? Miami, Florida. There you go. Plus the 8. I saw an 8 out there. I think the 7.5s are abundant. So obviously get at least the 7.5. You're getting the key number here. Obviously, Indiana's going to be a public side. I mean, there's no question about that. Although I know I've heard some professionals on the Indiana side. I've heard a lot of them teasing Indiana down to just win the game, like teasing them and tying them into like one of the NFL games with a teaser. I didn't hate that, even though generally the rule is never tease college football because the points aren't worth as much in college football. But in a championship game where the total is 47.5, it is almost like an NFL game. So I don't hate the idea of teasing Indiana down. You get through the key number 7-3. And you get down to 1.5. I don't hate that, but I prefer we're going to grab the points on Miami, man. We're going to go with it. We're going to have some balls. Nobody's going to want to do it. We're going to do it. 76% of tickets, 78% of the cash on Indiana. For what it's worth, 78% of tickets and 79% of the cash on the over. So the public, they're playing Indiana and over here, and I actually prefer the opposite. I don't really want to jump in on an under in a college football championship, though a lot of them tend to go over for whatever reason, although 47.5 is so low, nobody is going to want to go under, man. Seeing that Indiana just put up 55 points or whatever, and Miami put up 30-something in their game. Like, who the hell is going to want to go under 47.5 in this game? Indiana covered that number by themselves in their last game. But here's the difference, man, as far as the total, is that Miami was doing that against a pretty weak Ole Miss defense, and Indiana was doing it against, Oregon's not even that bad defensively, but I'll show you what Indiana did in a minute. Indiana had a lot of short drives. They had a defensive touchdown, so their offense was a little bit skewed what happened in that game, and that's actually part of the handicap in this game, is that game wasn't what it appeared to be. So, and both these teams are really good in the trenches, man, so sometimes that does kind of lend itself to more of a tighter game. I think if you do want to go under here, I'd probably do it in the first half instead, because sometimes the floodgates open later in the game, especially if the game happens to be close, and then you get kind of back and forth going on, whatever. But I think early on, the teams might be feeling each other out, you know. So we'll see what happens. And both of these teams are really good defensively. Let's not forget. These are two top 10 defenses. Indiana's like a top 5 defense in college football. They're probably top 3, both defense and offense. And Miami is a top 10 defense, and they're probably 25th or so offensively. So, yeah, Miami's not as good offensively. I know Indiana's obviously the better team, but if you can get this thing into a defensive slugfest and a trench war of some kind, man, I think Miami might be able to hang around within the number in this game, man. That's what I think. No, it seems like nobody thinks that way. Even some of the professionals that I've listened to don't think that, but I do. Miami has a day of extra rest, although not that that really matters, with both teams having like a week and a half off. It doesn't really matter. Now, if you look at Miami's game against Ole Miss, it wasn't misleading, dude. Miami outgained them 459 to 398. So, and Miami had, they lost the turnover battle, actually, -1, and Miami still was able to win that game. They outgained Ole Miss, won the game. Miami had way more penalties, so that's the one issue, I guess, is that Mario Cristobal doesn't have his team disciplined enough, so they got to worry about that. They were amazing on third down, though, but that was kind of the style of game that they played. They did win the first down battle, and they dominated the time of possession. This is key, dude. Like, this was the game plan, and it might be the game plan again. Cristobal basically saying, even though a lot of it had to do with the fact that they just kept converting third downs and continuing drives, but that's what he was doing. Like, he wanted the game plan to be, basically the Jim Harbaugh style, where you want to possess the ball as much as possible, which makes your defense be more well-rested, even though I know Miami has a better defense than offense, but it keeps your defense rested. It keeps the opposing offense off the field, and that's definitely what you want to do against both Indiana and Ole Miss, because they're both really good offenses. But, man, did they do that well in this game. They had over 40 minutes of possession in the game against Ole Miss. I thought it was actually really, really good game planning from Cristobal. I know he gets there are a lot of knocks on Cristobal for his team making mistakes in key moments, but that wasn't really the case in this game, except for, the penalties, one turnover, whatever. But that game plan worked awesomely, and I know it was against an Ole Miss defense that isn't good, so you can pick up chunks of yards, continue your drives against, which you won't be able to do as easily against Indiana, but still, I think they're going to try to do that, and they're going to try to slow the game down and play a possession game, and that's what you want if you're going to play the underdog here. So, yeah, Miami won that game. Good game planning. The final score was pretty much indicative of what happened in that game. That was not the case with this Indiana game, man. People have now seen Indiana crush Alabama, but Alabama, they still have a young coach there that hasn't been there that long. They had a freshman quarterback. It was just, I'm surprised that Alabama won by that much, but it was what it was. This Alabama team, they were one of the last teams to get into the playoffs. I thought Alabama was still pretty decent, like a top several team, but still, they just couldn't hang. Now, Oregon, probably a legit top 3 or 4 team in the country, and Indiana hammered them in the Peach Bowl, 56-22. And by the way, I was surprised. Indiana had a ton of fans at that game, man. I guess it makes sense because Atlanta is a lot closer to Indianapolis than Oregon is. So, it's a lot closer to Indianapolis than it is to Oregon, to say. So Indiana, they had 95% of the crowd there. That's not going to be the case tonight, by the way, which I'll talk about in a second. But Indiana, they'll have their crowd will show up for sure, but I don't think it's going to be overwhelming like it was in this game. I think it's going to be probably more on the Miami side I think it'll be less than 50% Indiana fans at the game tonight. But look at the game, man. Indiana won, 56-22 in the game. But what happened in this game? Well, Oregon actually outgained Indiana in this game. You're asking, well, how is that even possible? How did Oregon outgain Indiana when they lost by 34 points? Well, that's what I'm saying. The score was misleading. Oregon outgained them by 16 yards. They had 2 more first downs in the game, and they had a pretty close time of possession battle against Indiana. So statistically, this game should have been really, really close. But what happened in this game? Well, the game unraveled basically immediately. Literally, the first play from scrimmage was a pick 6 for Indiana. So that basically sort of set the tone almost right away. Oregon actually did bounce back with a really long, awesome drive to tie the game. But then what happened after that? Well, Indiana scored again with their good drive of themselves. Then after that, everything just went haywire, man. Oregon had another turnover, and Indiana had a 3-yard touchdown drive set up by a turnover. Then Oregon had another turnover a couple of possessions later, and Indiana had a 19-yard drive that led to a touchdown. So Indiana had multiple scores, and then later in the game, in the fourth quarter, there was another one that I believe was set up by a turnover. Maybe at this point it might have been a turnover on downs. So that was the other thing. Oregon just was going for it on 4th down because the game was way out of hand at that point. So they just started going for it on 4th down, turning it over again. So Indiana had another drive that was a touchdown drive that one was 4 yards. So Indiana had a pick 6 plus 3 touchdown drives that were 19 yards or fewer. 2 of them were single-digit yardage drives. That's how they put up 28 of their points in this game. So I would say this is a misleading result, man. That has me looking towards fading Indiana here. Nobody's going to want to do it because they just look so good. They look invincible, man. But remember, going into the playoffs, people didn't really think that. Going into the playoffs, more people were picking Ohio State and Georgia to win the championship than Indiana. I have Indiana winning it in my bracket, as you guys know, over Ohio State, I believe, yeah. So Yeah, I mean, I'll get my champion right, most likely in my bracket, because I think Indiana will still win the game, probably. Um, I just think Miami might have a chance here, man, looking at all this. And Miami's the one team that like I said, in the trenches that can maybe match up against Indiana, because the trench battle matters, man. It gets overlooked a lot, like how good are your lines. Well, Indiana has great offensive and defensive lines, but so does Miami. Like, these are the two teams with the best offensive and defensive lines in college football, and they're going up against each other here. So it's interesting. And finally, the thing that I was alluding to is, yeah, guess where this game is being played? It's being played in Miami. It's not at Miami's home stadium at the U, but it is in Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, so which is I believe the Dolphins Stadium, if I'm not mistaken. So it's in Miami. So I think you got to think that it's going to be more than 50% Miami fans at this game at the very least. It's like a de facto home game for Miami here. And you're getting points like this. Yeah, there'll be an Indiana crowd, obviously. They're going to travel for it. Like, Indiana has not been anywhere near this good, like, in program history. So, yeah, it's a historical thing. Their crowd's going to show up. I expect the crowd to be probably about, I would say, like 55% Miami would be my guess. Even though I know it's a home game for Miami, but it is the national championship or whatever. But yeah, I think, or semi-home game, but the crowd's going to be there for Miami for sure. So, and we don't have to worry about the weather or anything like that, of course. I mean, it's in fucking Miami. So it's going to be in the 60s. Looks like it'll be fine weather, whatever. But yeah, that's it, man. We're fading what I think is recency bias. And before that Indiana game was played, you could bet this game prior to that Indiana-Oregon game being played. You could already bet a number on this game, and the number in this game was 5.5. And now we're looking at 7.5, 8 here. So obviously the odds makers have shifted that line just because of what we saw Indiana do in the Peach Bowl. Like, literally, prior to that game being played, this line was going to be 5.5, and now it's above 7.5. So I think you're definitely getting line value on this. It's recency bias. I just have to do it, man, almost out of principle alone. So that's going to do it, man. That's the final play there. People are sleeping out to go to the bars in Indiana. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be crazy. There are going to be a lot of people watching it on Indiana's campus for sure. It's going to be madness there. Yeah, it's a huge game. Yeah. I mean, there's middle potential. I don't know, man. I don't think I would want to try to middle it, to be honest. I mean, I don't disagree with the teaser just because it does kind of fall into a Stanford Wong teaser where you kind of know that there's value there. But I'm just going with, like, how I read these games and how I handicap them and whatever. Like, so I just pretty much just straight bet these things. I don't know. If you have a +8 or whatever on Miami and you have a teaser with Indiana tied into it, I'm not going to knock you for it. I mean, it's possible that you win both for sure. So that's going to do it. Thank you, sir. I apologize for being a dick as usual. I got to get these Instagram videos out too. I think the first game that I have is until 2 in the afternoon though. 2 in the afternoon. Some Panic at the Disco there, 9 in the afternoon. We're going to be on Iona plus the points in college basketball, Southeastern Louisiana plus the points, Northern Colorado money line or lay like a small spread, but it's in that range where I think the money line is more advantageous. NHL, we got the Penguins money line. We got a split bet puck line money line on the San Jose Sharks. NBA, we're laying the points of the Clippers, going against the market read. I just think it's a terrible, terrible spot, man. And we're fading a bad team, which, I mean, a lot of times I like to play on bad teams because you get live value that way, but not in that case. We're going to be on the Utah Jazz, so the Jazz better get it done for us, man. We need to root for Utah here.
Okay, who do I root for? What do I do? Root for Utah! Utah!
There we go. We're going to root for Utah. Celtic pride there. And then college football championship, I can't help myself. We're going to be on Miami, plus the points. Balls. Let's do it, man. That's going to do it. Let's bounce back. Let's have a winning day. We got a lot of plays today. I think 8 plays. Let's get it done. Peace, everybody. Oh, and plugs, shit. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe, review, boost this channel. Let's get it going. We're on audio as well. Listen and review over there. That helps. Spotify, Apple. Covered in Uke is my Uke YouTube channel. Patreon.com/LearnToToad for some extra Uke stuff that I never get around to. I apologize. And then, dude, this stuff just, I don't know. All the betting and whatever takes a lot out of me, man. I'm not actually putting money on this right now until I free up my funds so I can start doing it again. Oh, my God. I'm giving out the plays as if I am, though. Maybe I will put a little bit on the football game. I don't know. Although I don't think it's my strongest bet of the day. I don't know which one is really, though. I don't know. I can't decide. And then Losercast will be back tomorrow night with a new episode there, too, so you can check that out, too. That'll do it. Peace. Happy, what I consider to be really a fake holiday. Don't nuke me. Don't nuke the channel. Peace, everybody.